distinguished guests and fellow compatriots. It's a real joy and an honor for me to have been given this opportunity to address you on the closing of this Traditional Leadership Indaba. Since Monday, you've all been involved in discussions that have an impact on the whole question of improving the lives of our people in the communities that you lead. Let me thank you for continuing to act as partners for progress and development in our country. This Indaba has demonstrated that we cannot succeed without the involvement and the commitment of our traditional leaders in all efforts that we want to get involved in. Our Constitution recognizes that without the institution of traditional leadership, our South African community and the construct that we have put together at the constitutional level is incomplete. So essentially, without your role, without your participation in matters that involve our people, our democracy is not complete. Without your active participation, our nation will not be able to overcome the scourges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. That is a given. And those who think that we will be able to resolve all these very difficult problems are living in some cuckoo land somewhere. Your participation is critical, it is crucial, and it is central. And today we demand that your participation must be respected as being central. We say this because we are not theorizing. We say this born out of the role that you have always played throughout the ages. You are the guardians today of our hard-won freedom. Your institution is one of those institutions that are the rock on which our democracy is anchored. You remain central to the deepening of democracy, but more importantly, you remain central to the implementation of the public participation concept that can make governance much more effective. As government, we are deeply invested in supporting and strengthening the institution of traditional leadership. We are invested in restoring the pride and the dignity of traditional authority so that our leaders can better lead the reconstruction and the development of our nation. What we are about as government is to find ways and means of not only restoring the dignity of your office, of your institution, not only ensuring that it is respected, but making sure that it is strengthened, it is bolstered, and it is put in the position where it can become most effective in the service of our people. Working with you, we have crafted a vision of traditional leadership that embraces transformation. Our Constitution envisages traditional leadership that plays a central role in the social and economic development of our people. This is a vision which embraces the constitutional principles of democracy, equality, as well as accountability. It is a vision that sees the institution of traditional leadership contributing significantly to employment creation, social cohesion, and nation building. This is an area that has been handed down to all of you by your forebears, by those who preceded you. You are bound to be nation builders. You are defined as leaders who will lead and champion the whole process of social cohesion. For generations, it has been the function of traditional leadership to facilitate economic development of our communities. For generations, you have sought to ensure that the economic well-being of our communities are advanced. That has been your task throughout the ages. And maybe you do need to sit back and reflect on this. Life revolves around the economy, and your task over the ages has been precisely to advance the lives of our people, to improve their prospects in life, and to make sure that our communities do progress and move ahead. It is your inherent task. And we stress this because today we are living in challenging economic times, and this is an area that you need to focus on. But you also focus on another area, that is to protect the communities of our country and also to preserve the environment. You mediate conflicts, you administer restorative justice, and your task is also to defend the vulnerable. As custodians of culture and as stores of ancestral wisdom, you have provided spiritual leadership. And let me say, I've always been so impressed when I have met many of you as one goes around the country, and as I've listened to many of you giving an account of the history of our people, the depth of knowledge, the preciseness of the facts that you have just brings the history of the African people to life. And this, I must say, I have found in many of you that I meet. You are the custodians of the history of our people. And I thank you for that, because that is a big task. Yes, you do provide spiritual leadership as well. Whether you are a reverend or not, you do provide that. And I'm sure the bishops and archbishops in churches will probably think I am talking heresy when I say our traditional leaders do provide that spiritual leadership. Ultimately, my dear leaders, you have been a force for integration, always embodying the unity of our people. As government, we have renewed our efforts to improve the living conditions of millions of South Africans living in rural communities. We want to do this working hand in hand with you to ensure sustainable development in an integrated manner for communities that you lead. We know that working with you, we can better provide essential services like water, like roads, electricity. Working with you, we want to intensify and enhance our programs for building roads, installing infrastructure, delivering more clinics, more schools, more houses, so as to ensure that our people lead a better and a dignified life. We want to work with you to combat the appalling hunger that many of our people still live under, hunger that still affects so many South Africans. There is no reason why someone living in a rural area should go hungry, and there is no reason why someone living in a rural area should go without a job. People living in households which experience extreme hunger are unlikely to reach their human potential. Children in those households often experience severe malnutrition, which contributes to a high number of deaths amongst children under 5. Government is therefore focused, among other things, on growing the economic value of smallholder agriculture, which will bring many smallholder households out of poverty. Some of the initiatives spearheaded by government require changing archaic or old farming practices, adopting new methods of looking after livestock, and participating in programs which build capacity and skills, as well as to enhance land use. We want to work with our traditional leaders to improve the health of rural people. We need to ensure that they are reached by our primary health care interventions, including community health care workers. In particular, we need to address their vulnerability to HIV and TB by focusing both on prevention and ensuring access to treatment. I single these two out because with Dr. Motsoaledi, the Minister of Health, I work with him in the South African National, in SANAC. And in SANAC, we have the benefit of having traditional leaders participating actively in the interventions that SANAC makes to make sure that we defeat this demon of HIV. Our response to these epidemics need to take account of cultural practices and the beliefs of our people. Traditional leaders have a crucial role to play in promoting awareness, tackling prejudice, and combating this whole problem of stigma against people who are infected with HIV. There are areas where traditional leaders have taken the lead in encouraging men to be circumcised, even where it is not common cultural practice, because it significantly reduces chances of HIV transmission. And we want to applaud those traditional leaders who have led from the front when it comes to initiatives and interventions that are going to help us combat this disease. Such interventions have improved the health of our people and saved lives. As traditional leaders, you should agree on how we retain the best of our traditions, of our heritage and indigenous wisdom, while seizing the opportunities of a rapidly changing world. We must work together to infuse new traditions of opportunity, of innovation, as well as transformation. We must empower our youth to take their place in the 21st century while holding fast to their best attributes of their past. As we evolve, we must find the equilibrium between preservation and progress, between looking forward to a brighter future whilst not abandoning what has stood us in good stead from our past. As we look at rural development strategies, as we look into the prospects of things like industrialization, traditional leaders will play a greater role in changing the landscape of our economy. The areas under your custodianship must be seen as sites for economic development. They must not be seen as sites of degradation and underdevelopment. These areas have the potential to be an oasis of an organic, radically inclusive, diversified modern economy. And all we have to do as traditional leaders, working together with other role players, is to find that winning formula in the areas where you are, to make sure that indeed in the end we do find success. For decades, the colonial authorities and the apartheid regime sought to drain our rural areas of their economic potential. First, they dispossessed us of our land, dispossessed us of our assets, and having done so, injected poverty into our livelihoods, and thereafter drove us into their mines, into their farms, to go and work for them. So they drained our economic potential. It is akin to what I regard as an economic genocide was perpetrated against our people. And that genocide has remained with us for generations. But now we have an opportunity to bring the regions of our country that were drained of their economic potential to life, to beneficial economic life. Some of our traditional leaders live in areas that are blessed with huge resources. Many live in places that possess rare scenic beauty, places that are naturally endowed and culturally appealing. These are huge possibilities for tourism, development, and industrialization without undermining the social fabric of the communities that you lead. Central to our program of radical socio-economic transformation, a program which aims to fundamentally change the pace, the scale, and the control and ownership of production in our country, we are investing significantly in the development of agriculture and agro-processing. Through the establishment of agri-parks across the length and the breadth of our country, we are working to find ways and implementing ways to empower black smallholder farmers, providing them with training, resources, infrastructure, and most importantly, access to markets. And in this, we will also be acceding to levels that other countries have moved to. I think here of a country like Ethiopia, whose agricultural production was amongst the poorest in the world. But in recent times, they decided to focus more directly on agriculture, and today their agriculture is the biggest contributor to their GDP. And they did this through focus. They did this through deploying the necessary resources. They educated well over 60,000 young people in agricultural knowledge and experience, and then deployed them right across the length and the breadth of their country as extension officers to go and work with our people, to go into the rural areas, live in the rural areas with their PhDs, with their master's degrees, with their degrees, and they are working actively, assisting our people, advising our people, living side by side with them. And as a result, Ethiopia's agricultural production has grown by leaps and bounds, and that is a result of focus. I dream of the level of focus like that, where we will deploy extension officers right across the country to assist our people to regain this great skill that our people had of working the land and eking out of the land all that sustains life and that makes our people lead a better life. This will ensure that more of the values of our agricultural produce is produced in the rural areas, and this will also ensure that more jobs are retained and created, and more skills are created as well. The National Development Plan postulates that we should be able to create 1 million jobs in agriculture alone. Now, with our unemployment rate having reached record levels since 2003 at 27.7% for those who are still looking for jobs, and the expanded unemployment rate at 35.4%, this is a huge challenge which requires all of us, both government, our leaders in the rural areas, our traditional leaders, the unions, business, and everyone to work hard with a fanatical focus on how we are going to create jobs for our young people especially, and for all our people in general. This, colleagues, my traditional leaders, is a task that also rests on your shoulders. It is a problem that also belongs to you, because for generations, you as our traditional leaders were the people who always went from household to household to find out how our people were living. You would go into a household and find out if people were working, either the land or whatever else. Because you are so deeply connected with our people, it was your task to go into the community to find out what the challenges and the problems that our people are facing. would like to reignite that. Would like to reignite that, but this time around, you will have a partner, and your partner will be the government of the Republic of South Africa, working with you, side by side, to make sure that the challenges that our people are resolved. Because those challenges, in the end, come back to you, because you are the natural leaders of our people. They are your challenges as well. That is why we are investing in developing as much as we can in farming skills and capabilities of black youth. Now, it is possible that some of all what I'm talking about may not be actively happening in your area, but this is now an invitation for you to call upon government and say, we want you to be actively involved with various initiatives in our area. And if we do this, we will be able to empower our young people, and we will find that they no longer need to leave the rural areas, because they will find that the seeds of development and progress are exactly where you are leading them. We would also like you to partner with local and provincial and national government to invite and attract private investment in your areas to harness these assets. And in doing so, actively work together with the various levels of government. But at the forefront of efforts to integrate rural communities into national and global economy should be yourselves. You should be the ones who are leading the charge, who will make sure that indeed you do attract all these key actors to your various areas. It reminds me of a wonderful story that I read about and I've told this before, of a mayor who was elected to become mayor of a town in Japan. Upon being elected, he decided to put on his shoes and get on the road and went to the big cities of Japan, and went from company to company and said, I come from a very rural area, and I want to invite you to come to my rural area and invest there. In my rural area, there are people who are prepared to work, people who have knowledge, people who can be trained, and people who can work and work hard. I invite you to come there, and we will make the environment conducive for you to come and invest. And we will give you these types of opportunities and so on. And he moved around Tokyo, going from company to company to company. And he was able to win the interest of a number of leading companies. He attracted them back to the rural town that he was leading. And today that rural town is a big metropolitan city. And I say this because sometimes when we sit in our rural areas, we sometimes could be browbeaten and say, no, Johannesburg is just too far. I don't think I'll find anybody who will have interest in our rural village. I don't think I'll find anyone who will have an interest in our rural village in Cape Town or even London. And I say, spread your wings, even as traditional leaders. Work together with other role players in your area and reach out to various places where you know there is money. Follow money and bring it back to your rural area to invest so that jobs can be created. And I think you can do it. because you have the strength and the power of persuasion which you have inherited from your forebears. Your forebears were great people who were able to convince other people to do things that they may never have wanted to do. The institution of traditional leadership must define itself as a development authority. If you focus on how best we can develop our people, then you become a development authority. We must together have a dedicated focus also on developing the skills of rural youth. Make sure in a fanatical way that our youth are developed and they get great skills. Our national drive to promote things like early childhood development must extend into rural areas, no matter how challenging or difficult. There must be good quality schools with universal access. As traditional leaders, you must be worried when schools in your area, in your province, do not perform as well as schools in the urban areas. There should be no difference between children in the rural areas and children in the urban areas. And it should be your primary concern as a traditional leader that there is no difference. As several schools in deep rural areas have repeatedly demonstrated, location is not necessarily an obstacle to excellence. 2 days ago in Parliament, I applauded the unbelievable performance of a young woman who has become the 6th black neurosurgeon in our country. And where did she come from? She came from a village, Ilali Lasemtata. That's where she came from.